dedicated to Data Science Sunday is dedicated to everyone getting started with data science. As part of our vision of building a an ecosystem, a tech ecosystem from northern Nigeria, from Kaduna, we the idea of building communities around learning is what we do to build our tech talent pipeline, so we can give people the opportunity to build their tech skills, incubate their tech skills through an interesting community that makes it possible to engage, to interact, build a social structure on top of it, and get through the learning curve, which could be very, very difficult. And that's the same idea for Data Science Sunday. So yes, welcome. Data Science Sunday, the 17th episode of Data Science Sunday this year, just like other ones we've had, has two sessions. The first session is an interactive session where we interact with folks, asking folks what they're doing, how their data science learning is going. Also, finding out if it's your first time in the data science space. If it is, what are you doing? If you've been here, what's the experience like? And all. So that's typically what data science this session is about. Now, if you're new to this session, there are two ways you can interact. You can drop a question in the in-call message or even in the comment section, and share and let us know what you're doing. Let us know how that is going. If you're someone with experience, again, that's awesome. It's ideal for you to jump into our community and share your experience with us, because that's what you want to master. You share with other people, right? So if it's your first time, please indicate. You can indicate by raising your hands. Again, you can do this. You can also drop a message in the comment section on the in-call chat. You can basically say hi. And yes, please go ahead, Sophia. Yes, please feel free. You can say hi.
Good evening.
Good evening, Sophia. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's your first time in Data Science Sunday?
Yeah, this is my first time.
Is it your first time in Data Science?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. When did you decide on jumping into Data Science?
Well, I was invited last week, but I didn't join, so I joined today.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's the learning going?
I just started, so I don't know.
All right, then that's great. We're here to help out. Please let us know, and hopefully you join our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Hi, Sada. How you doing?
Hello, Mr. Peter, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I was supposed to join last week, and fortunately, I couldn't. And I'm looking forward to learn from your class. And basically, I wasn't into tech. From last year, I studied accounting as my major in school, and I have an MBA, and everything is just different. So I decided to join tech last year. I applied for data science, but I unfortunately I wasn't I couldn't secure admission in data sciences. Instead, I got admission to study AI machine learning. Yeah, so still I'm much more interested in data science, and I believe this class will give me opportunity to know more about it, even though I think from the curriculum I can see it has there are so many um, things that like Python and other tools that you use in common with data sciences. So I'm looking forward to have an amazing time here and to learn and to interact and to learn from everyone. So I'm really honored to be here and I'm looking forward to have an amazing time.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. When you said are you going through an undergraduate course in AI and machine learning, or is it a master's program? Just curious.
No, actually it's just a certificate course, 6 month certificate course. Yeah,
What?
yeah. So it's like a career switch or of some sort, not a complete switch because I still practice accounting, and I'm still an accountant, a member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, and I'm still an accountant, but it's just not a switch, but I'm just looking forward to find something interesting, and I can see tech has I can find a lot of opportunities in tech, and that's why I'm looking forward to explore more. So it's a certificate course in AI machine learning, and I wanted data sciences, even though I don't think now I begin to understand that there are a lot of similarities between the two, and yeah.
All right. I mean, that's awesome. That's great. One thing I think would help a lot is almost always to have this super focus on fundamentals. I think it helps to create that foundation for you, especially when you're making a switch. Um, Again, like I tell everybody that joins in, this space is this community is a safe space for you to pick this up. If you have questions, if there are things you're trying to pick up, if there are things that are pretty new to you, again, I'll share link for the new folks to join into our community. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to ask for guidance and all. And my hope is that in 6 months you should become aware of certain things you did not know, right? And that will push you to trying to know, go go further into the field of AI machine learning. Of course, there's the foundational side that data science brings to it, and I think that's really important to pick up. So, yep. So welcome, Sada. It's great to hear from you, and hopefully we'll see more of you as we progress. So, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So again, I'm grateful for everybody who has jumped in and pitched in. The next thing I typically want to figure out is what I try to do is to share a few links and hope that these links help you as you get started. The idea is there how I look at it and how I see it is there's always that base for you to get started. And I'll share some links. Hopefully these links serve as an addition or a foundation for you to get stuff started. So just check out the message or the comment section. I'm going to drop these links here. First off, I'm going to drop links. I almost always like folks to download Anaconda. I think it's a suite of softwares and packages that make it easy for anybody to get started. right? So that's one. If you haven't installed Anaconda, I'd appreciate it. To be ideal for you to jump on it. So to have something that you can use, um, something you can use to get started, right? I just shared one in the comment section. Then I also have a YouTube channel. Please feel free to check it out. I think he has a lot of foundational stuff that can help out. So here, this is the link to it. So check it out. Your feedback is highly appreciated. That's one. Another thing I like to share is I love to share our data science community, right? So basically, we call it the data weekend. The data weekend has two. We use WhatsApp. We're in WhatsApp and Telegram. It's called the data weekend because we have folks who are learning Excel for data analysis, Tableau for business intelligence, and Python for data science. So it's really cool. So jumping on it, both the WhatsApp and the Telegram channel, ideal, right? So just check it out, and you can see that would typically help. Right, lovely. Just a second. All right. Anything else? Yes, there's also a link. I always share this. This is Think Stats Alan Downey. Alan Downey's Think Stats, where you learn Python and statistics, right? And I think it's a very lovely resources for. Oh, awesome! Thank you so much. I think it's a lovely resources for learning, understanding probability and statistics. So check it out. It's been formatted to be in Google Colab, which is a live Jupyter notebook, and it has free access. Again, shout out to Alan Downey for that. Really cool stuff he's doing to help folks build their data science skills. So please check it out, and also feel free to support that too if you want. Right. Okay, I also think maybe it's also ideal that I also share my screen, and then we can also look at a few things that I have shared just for folks who have not checked it out for the first time. So I shared some resources. One of the first resources was the Anaconda the Anaconda, for you to download Anaconda basically. So this was what I shared. So this is what it looks like. My thought is for the folks who are getting started, especially Sophia, I don't know if you've seen Anaconda distribution, but I would encourage you to check it out and see if that works for you. But I suspect it might. Also, it's typically what I started with some years ago. A lot of people are on it. So see if that will work. Just a little walkthrough on what you could do with it. If you register with it, you have access to thousands of data science, machine learning, and AI packages. And of course, they're really easy to use. I think so. And you can see some of the tools you'll familiarize yourself with as you get started. Right. So this, for instance, the Jupyter Notebook is one. Pandas is another. These are like really interesting packages that you use to learn data science. right? And this is what it looks like if you would install it. You have something called the navigator where all your environments are at. So pretty cool stuff to jump in on. Now, if you want to make use of it, one of the first things I would encourage you to do, you could choose to provide your email. And what it means is that you agree for communication with an accountant. Trust me, I don't have any, I'm not doing this for anything. It's just what it is, right? If you don't feel like using that, just keep the registration. You could click skip registration here, and it will take you directly to downloading the installers. They have installers for Windows, installers for the Mac OS and the Linux distribution. So yeah, so I think this should be some form of an entry, right? So that's one. The other thing I shared was I shared the link to my data science channel. So I'll share this again. This is the data science channel. So this is the data science channel, and it has a bunch of playlists that you can use to jump on stuff, right? Again, I'm just building it as I go, putting in stuff in it just to help folks. Introduction to data visualization, introduction to the statistics, introduction to Python. For folks who are getting started, you might as well jump on this if you're trying to get started with Python. Pretty simplified way of learning Python, I have to say so myself. So feel free to jump on it and check it out. Again, feel free to leave comments if there are things if there are some challenges you're having. Again, check it out. Let me know what these challenges are in the comment section, and we can take it from there. Then I also shared the link, okay, the latest edition of ThinkStats. Again, I mentioned that Alan Downey made this free. So again, I'll share this here. Now, if you jump on this, you will see a breakdown of ThinkStats, right? So you can see it over here. It's an introduction to probability and statistics for Python programmers, right? Typically, there's an expectation that you have a basic skill in Python, but you can typically use it to get a sense of what's happening. I also learned some programming, maybe a little bit one step up ahead, and all that. Now you can see a cool thing. If you're not familiar with running Jupyter notebooks and Colab, you might want to start with an introduction, and which is also another way of educating yourself with Google Colab. And you can also check this out. So this is what this looks like. Once this pops open, you have a Jupyter notebook on the cloud for that, and you have compute resources provided for you, so you don't have to bother about your system not being fast enough and all, and you get to start to make sense of statistics and probability. You can see over here, just an interesting, just to read an intro to it. So you can see here, I say the thesis of this book is we can use data to answer questions, resolve debates, and make better decisions. This chapter introduces the step we use to that: loading and validating data, exploring and choosing statistics that measure what we're interested in. So you see that it's really an interesting thing to get started with. And you'll see a lot of Python code here, a lot of read-ups and all. You read up a lot of interesting stuff, and then you run the codes, right? A lot of this code will just give you a sense of how writing Python is like. You can see things, you can have attributes, you can see. It's also educating you on data frames, which are like two-dimensional tabular structures for data and all that. So really cool stuff to jump in on. So I'll advise, if you jump in on this, it might be a hard start for some people. Apologies for that, but look, for you to really get used to what you're doing, you need to um, try some things above your pay grade. That's the way it is. Right. So please check that out. Right. Also, in the introductory session, like we're having, we also have a session where we talk about what we have done for the week. It's ideal to share what you have done for the week because it typically gives you, you know, it's a form of accountability that we've introduced into the Data Science Sunday. Now we simply share what we've done for the week. It doesn't matter if you've what you've done from Mondays to Saturday. Sunday is another the start of another week. It's always ideal to recap what you've done. If you typically don't have a way of doing that, well, it's a signal for you to start to say, look, starting from Monday, I'm going to have myself organized. I know what I want to achieve for the week. I have it well, penned down. I have like something like a multi-scale planning that I'm putting together. Or if you don't, then we get to talk about a multi-scale planning where you get to plan for things ahead of time and give every minute of your day a job, right? Really interesting thing about it is how um, that itself would help push you, give you that edge in terms of learning. This is also like even a perfect segue for me to talk about something I read today. I'll also share a bit of that, and then I'll drop the link in the link is already in the group, but I'm going to drop it again. It's it's an article from Farnham Street, and yes, Shane Parrish, like he's an author, and he's always having conversations about productivity, knowledge. And he has something called the Knowledge Project, and it talks about accelerated learning. And it's also I have a cohort, I have a data science cohort called the Data Science Mentor, and it also has that tag accelerated learning too. So we'll talk about that some as we proceed. But that is such an interesting read, and I just figured that I'll talk about it today, so that it gives us a sense of what we're also doing, right? So again, if there's something you've done for the week, please feel free. If you feel like talking about it in the chat, if you're having some challenges learning, please feel free to you can raise up your hands and say, oh, here are my challenges. How do I go about it? Or these are the things I'm trying to do to, to get around these challenges. Because typically, right, the obstacle is the way. If there's any issue, the challenge you're having, that challenge is what you should like move closer to or figure a way to get around it. But again, this is an ideal place for us to have that conversation. If you're having challenges organizing yourself or you're learning stuff and it seems like it's just too difficult and you're on the brink of giving up, I mean, talking about it, provides perspective. It's like you're in a dark room and there's a small window open that you just get another type of perspective to it. So this is also what we do in this session. So please feel free if you have something, you can drop it in the chat and just say hi again and tell us what it is. Part of what I want to do is encourage you to share stuff, right? Encourage you to share stuff and all. So yeah. Sarah, is there something you want to say?
Yes, thank you, Peter. There are things that I would like you to explain for the benefit of myself and other students in the class. Maybe if we can maybe start with the basic tools and resources that we need to start our journey in data science. I think that would be like you give us a head start on how to get prepared fully. Yeah.
Okay, so data science I mean, data science is filled with a lot of fundamental ideas on how to find patterns in data, right? And it's again filled with a lot of tools that would help you find pattern, get insights, and then part of what you're trying to do is to, build a system for predicting stuff in future, build a system for uh, finding segments in data and segmenting your data and finding insights about the different clusters in your data is gives you a competitive edge in the industry. Now, but to get started, there are some basic skills that are necessary. Now, these skills like range from technical skills to what I call human skills, right? In fact, just to put it in perspective, let me get a link to what I had shared. Just a second. Just a second. Here we go. All right, so here is, let me share this link. Right, I read this blog today. I'll drop it in the chat here so that you check it out too. The blog's called Learning, and it's also idea. Let me also put it here so we can just share a few insights from it, because I think it's sort of like gives us it gives a sense. I think it gives a sense of some of the ways we could get started if we're learning stuff. Now, the topic is accelerated learning, learn faster and remember more. Now, the topic here, the title basically makes you think, okay, well, this is like an elixir for learning really fast. It is, but generally the idea is you need to take your time, right? So if we look at this first part, it says you can train your brain to retain knowledge and insight better by understanding how you learn. And once you undertake the key to learning, everything changes, from the way you ask questions to the way you consume information. People will think you have a superpower. Now, there are lots of things that are really interesting about the learning phase, and one of it is the activities we perform in our lives with respect to our learning and the way our mind thinks about new stuff, right? There are some things we do, for instance, how we organize ourselves, one, how our mind thinks around learning new stuff. Also, how we approach learning new things. Are we the type to, meet a new challenge and then say, oh no, this is not the way it's supposed to be, right? And like, and I typically want to show, let us know a few things. First off, there's this part that says we know from biology that organisms that can adapt to their constantly changing environment survive and thrive. The ones that can't eventually go extinct. The same is true for us in our life and work. We all know the person at work that hasn't adapted to the changing times. Their unwillingness to stretch themselves and learn something new makes it seem like they're moving backwards. People can end up stuck with a static amount of knowledge because we don't just passively absorb new ideas and information. Now, learning something new, I have to get this into perspective. Learning something new requires active engagement. So, Sada, this is one thing. First things first, to learn something new, you require active engagement, which is anything that is associated with the new stuff you're learning, you should be, around it. In Cal Newport's deep work, he mentions being in the cutting edge of whatever it is you're learning. So that's one thing. So that's part of what makes the learning thing ideal. Being around communities, picking up books, trying to just pick up something little as you get started. Now, another really interesting thing that was mentioned here is this. The greatest enemy of learning is what you think you know, right? The instance you tell yourself that there are certain things you know and that you're not going to go down that road. Well, then something starts, it's difficult to change your mind about learning stuff, and learning new stuff means changing your mind as you rapidly move. So it's important that that we have that in mind. Another one is sorry, let me use this again. The first step to learning is recognizing your ignorance and deciding to do something about it, right? So that is another one really interesting thing. And now remember that these things has nothing to do with, say, learn Python first or all that. It's typically the human side to ourselves, right? Now, this part where we say we're bad at learning, so one reason why we're bad at learning is that we bring a lot of baggage to it, right? Baggage we struggle to let go of later, right? So again, you have to let go of some assumptions you have. Some folks have assumptions that there are certain things they can't learn, right? That they believe that they are at a level in their lives, and one certain thing is difficult. That's it. Like, that is not meant for me, right? So again, learning needs a lot of reflection, right? It requires consistent engagement. It also requires your mind wandering. You can see all these things I'm saying, a lot of them are pictured here. You need to let go of trying to look smart. A lot of the times when we are learning, we want to feel like, we're afraid to look stupid, right? So you get me, but you just focus on, the focus should be on trying to be smart. So it's a journey to smartness. So it's not, you shouldn't care about how anything is, right? Again, I found this really insightful. We sometimes struggle with learning because we expect it to be easy, right? So a lot of folks say, look, I need to learn stuff, but I mean, if it's not easy, it must be easy. I've heard a lot of folks say, I tried this the first week and I started asking myself, why is it that I cannot learn this? And next thing they start saying, can I find something a little less challenging, right? There is no silver bullet for learning anything. So that's one. So we need to set our minds ready for all these things. Another thing that we should know is this is really such an interesting thing. It says another reason we're bad at learning is that the modern world erodes our attention span by training us to be in a constant state of distraction, mobile phones, doom scrolling, right? We want to do stuff that feels good at the moment. Now, learning isn't something that feels good at the moment. As a matter of fact, it's really difficult to learn. But you must come to that conclusion that it's something you're going to make. You're going to tell yourself it's going to be fun, right? Right. And one thing is that a distracted mind, right, cannot absorb new information. So you've got to think about the things you're doing consistently that distract you, and you need to have to start moving away from that so that you can put full attention to what it is you're learning. So again, I feel you should read this. I think this should be a perfect entry into what you're doing, right? Now, while we're talking about this, let's now move into the technical side of things. If you're learning data science, data science has a few things you need to pick up. You need to have some fundamental knowledge of statistics, right? And that's why I shared the Alan Downey stuff. It just give you like some intro to it. In the group, I'll be sharing some maybe simplified resources on how to look at that, how to learn stuff like that, like fundamental statistics. You also need to learn to use Python as a tool, And when you learn to use it as a tool, it's not like you're immersing yourself inside of it. You just realize that it has some really interesting tools that make you abstract information and abstract data. And when you learn it like, okay, this is going to help me to learn other things, not just, you get mired in the technicalities. So Python statistics really, really important. Now, when you learn, it's ideal for you to test stuff out. Like if you learn and you create a variable, oh, that makes a lot of sense. You'll be like, you just don't read so much and not try it out. For instance, one of the greatest learning curve you would have will be installing tools that you would need to do stuff. It's that realization that maybe your laptop is having issues accepting the software, or you just realize that, oh man, I need really great internet, or you need to understand how to install stuff in your system, because for a long time you probably were not installing stuff. You just probably used your laptop for something else. And then you also need to learn how to search for information. There are so many things we have now that makes it really easy for us to search stuff. If this was 10 years ago, we'll be talking about the Google search, but the Google search is still prominent and relevant. There's also generative AI tools. Generative AI tools make it pretty easy because you need these tools to help you learn stuff, right? You can type stuff in it and do some research, and it helps. You can even ask for advice on using a generative AI tool, and that would help. A lot of these generative AI tools you can get them for free. There are lots of them. There's Gemini, there's Google Gemini. There's the Google Gemini. That's one. There's also, you can see, you can ask. There is also there's DeepSeek. You can these tools are there. And at any point you feel like, okay, I need to ask a very simple question. Just ask pretty simple questions, and you would find that it's pretty easy for you to work with these tools to get across and pick up skills. Again, one interesting thing I think I like about generative AI tools is they teach you to write and learn, and also to read, right? Because if you ask questions, then that means you typically should take your time to read stuff like that. Right, so that's another thing. So these tools are there to help you learn stuff, right? And of course, added to it is search engine. So these are very simple tools that makes it easy for you to ask questions. And the generative AI tools also make it, you start to ask, you can, for instance, you can ask questions as simple as like, how do I get started with data science as a complete beginner? I know, like, writing a complete beginner, you just basically say as a beginner. Writing complete most times just as a beginner. How do I get started with data science as a beginner, right? And you find that interesting. You find yourself, getting interesting stuff with it, right? So you see, right? So all this makes it pretty easy for you to you get yourself started with stuff, right? They are all information and all that. Another thing I would also advise is, and it says this in this article, right? You can't learn stuff in 2 months or 3 months, right? There are lots of things. There are lots of, because we're in an era where we have so much information going around. I'm telling you, you can learn stuff in 2 months or in 3 months. No, it's not even possible. right? It's a journey, and you need to take your time. You need to really be patient, right? And then you need to be comfortable failing. When you fail, with failure, there's a lot of data in failure, so you pick it up. And remember, when you fail at stuff, it's just an action. It's just a small activity. You just keep going forward with it. So again, you get basic Python, you learn basic statistics, right? And then while you're at it, you're trying to use statistics and Python to use it to, manipulate data. Second, you have to also be, wary about the things that distract you. Your mind has to almost always reflect things like failure. It's normal. The ability to learn things and find effective learning techniques is super, super huge. You need to understand yourself. When you learn stuff, how do you keep improving on it? You don't learn stuff one time. The brain is typically built to forget stuff. So you need to keep learning. You need to do stuff called spaced repetition. You learn stuff consistently, right? And go back to the fundamentals all the time. Right. Again, I would encourage you to read this article. This article is super huge, right? So hopefully that is like a long answer to a very short question. Right. Again, Sada, please feel free to ask questions like this on the group, and more insights come as more insights come in, we keep building on all that. So hopefully this helps. All right. We are like 7 minutes to our next session. So do we have questions? Are there things we want to talk about? How has our week gone? Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, hi Pablo. How are you doing?
Great.
Great. So I am asking for, what if I'm trying to learn data science and I don't have a laptop I'm using readily right now? What are my options? I have access to laptop at work, but I don't have a personal laptop at home. What would be the best strategy to tackle that?
I think it's pretty straightforward. Is to find the nearest place where they sell laptops and see if you can find a way to buy one. Like I think it's really, really important that you have something you're using personally, because the learning curve often needs that repetition and stuff. If you have a laptop elsewhere, right, when you learn and when you get back, sometimes some of these things come into your head, or some of these situations when you want to learn stuff just pop up. So you need to have something personal. So the advice I give to folks is, please find a way to buy one, right, so that you can have it with you at all times, right? So that's basically the advice I would. It's fine if it's for folks who almost feel like, maybe it's a thing of finance. Try and look for fairly used ones. But I know for Ibrahim, I don't think it's a thing of finance. But yeah, I'll just encourage you to get a laptop you can use at home. So just something that you can always carry around. I always have this advice for the folks who are learning in my community, and this is also my community, is once you start to learn stuff like data science, you get yourself a bag that can carry your laptop, and also get yourself a power, an adapter, an extension, and put in that bag. So what that means is at any point you can just sit down anywhere, open up your laptop and plug in and start learning. So please get a laptop. I think that's one of the best ways you can.
Okay, but can I, for instance, just dedicate 1 or 2 hours at work before I get a laptop to be focusing on a fixed timetable for data science?
Yes. First off, it's a very good question, because it's also borders on the way the mind works. It's typical that 2 hours a day is such an interesting amount of time to pick up some skills, and at this point it's now down to the kind of techniques you would use to pick up. And a perfect thing is what's on the screen, right? So it's a perfect time to also talk about the Feynman technique. Yeah, so if you have that 2 hours, right, then you typically want to make the best out of it, right? So two proven techniques to improve learning if you just have 2 hours is to, understand the concept like you were, it's like you're teaching it to a child. So you pick up a concept you're learning, right? Then you pretend like you're teaching it to a child. And so you start to ask yourself, if it was a 6-year-old, what would I tell the person about this concept? And once you're done, you review stuff like that. If you can, you write about what you've learned, and then keep going back to the resources. So with that 2 hours, you can use it effectively to learn stuff. And using this Feynman technique, spaced repetition, which means not memorizing stuff, but learning stuff consistently, right? You revisit what you have learned, you revise it from time to time. So you do an hour learning, and after an hour, you do a little bit of revision. Those 2 hours at work will would pay off. So there's also something called the compounding effect, right? It's always, when I first learned it, it was I learned that idea from Ray Dalio, and he said he learned it from the idea of a compound interest. But the difference is, it's like you're saving money. So it's like every day, if you take $1,000 and you save it, the next day you save another one, is 2,000, right? In fact, let me not use $1,000. Let me use $100. So if you save $100 today, and tomorrow you have another $100, like, it's as small as it might look, right? The next day is 200, third day is 300, fourth day is 400. The reality is that if you're doing the 2 hours every day, it's something compounds, right? And before you know it, if you're just doing 2 hours every day for the next 1 month, you will be amazed that you've gone from not knowing one thing to, having an idea. So yes, 2 hours every day at the office is ideal, right? Ensure that you got that 2 hours jealously, right? So that when you're there, you're not like, there's no work on the side. Maybe if you have a way of just ensuring that you block off all the Slack channels or the emails and all, and that 2 hours will work. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Pablo.
You are highly welcome. All right, so we are gradually getting to the technical side of our session. When it is 7 o'clock West African time, then we try to do something a little bit technical. Now I say a little bit technical because this is where we try to pick up a little bit of skills on what we're doing, and then we try as much as we can to just take in a few things, right? So again, another thing I'll like a lot of folks to pick up is the ability to plan your day. Planning your day or planning what you do is important, right? Find a way, even if it means, if you have a jotter, if you have an Excel sheet or a Google sheet, try to plan your day. Try to track the things you're doing. You have something you're doing in future, or you want to achieve in future. Say you want to become really great at this data science stuff, then you know that maybe just for what today I'm going to do 2 hours of introduction to Python, right? And maybe that 2 hours typically means installing an Anaconda navigator and then having to navigate all that, right? And then you have that plan, you have an exact time you're doing that stuff, and during that time, everything matters at that point is what you're learning. Everything that matters is what you're learning. And I think that's key, right? And then take notes. I try as much as I can to have a book I use to keep notes. And this is, I typically plan with the notebook, and then check things off when I feel I may have done something really interesting. Now, don't leave a lot to your brain, because the brain has a lot it's doing. The brain, you can't use your brain as a source of reminder for doing anything. What the brain will do, it will always look for a lazy way to get things done. So what it does is, from occasionally, to remind you that you haven't done anything correctly, and then that will just leave you stressed out, and you start thinking, oh, getting things right. So I think it's important to put things down and plan stuff. right? So yeah, look up something called multi-skill planning, and deliberate practice. These are ways for you to consistently get things done, right? And then repeat, repeat, repeat. Again, perfect thing here is that the memory mastery comes from repeated exposure to new materials. Always do that. And then the need to retrieve something from memory is also very interesting because it just makes information stick. So learn, plan, and all that. So at every point when you plan really well, have it written down, the brain will always point you to something. It will not, make you get, frustrated. It will always say, hey, check out that book where you write stuff for the day and look out the stuff you're supposed to do for today. And next thing you know, you just simply get started with it. So that's one thing I would advise that you do. I of course I do a lot of planning myself and a lot of tracking. So yeah. Do we have questions? Please feel free to ask questions if it's your first time here. If you have questions, share. Questions also make it really, really great for you to learn stuff. Asking questions really, really super great. I think in this article, the idea of asking questions was emphasized, right? It's somewhere. Just read about it. You see, the idea of asking questions, part of what makes you really good at what you do. When you ask questions, especially like really fundamental questions, really basic questions like you're a toddler, it changes a lot of things for you, right? You can ask questions, something as simple as, why do I have this stuff that is dangling on my system, this blue purplish stuff around? You can also ask, um, you can ask questions like, why do you have so many tabs open? These questions in your head, you might think, they are not so important, but they are really great questions. Just open up a lot of things. You can ask, why are you doing data science Sunday? How did you mentioned data science Sunday has over 120 episodes you've had. How do you maintain stuff like that? You can ask questions like, what are your preparations for data science Sunday? Do you plan for data science Sunday? What kind of work do you do? Do you have one or two jobs? What are the challenges you have in life? Do you go through challenges? Questions, 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 questions. They help, right? Don't be afraid to ask them. Don't be afraid to, don't think you're going to look stupid asking them. The idea is for you, you're training to be smart. So, you shouldn't care about if you look stupid asking questions. Just ask them, right? So it's all this thing just makes your mind wander. Your mind will have to go places and all. So please, yep, that will definitely help. All right. So what I just did is I just moved into the Jupyter Notebook, right? Jupyter Notebook is from this. This is the Anaconda Navigator. For those who are new, I encourage you to download Anaconda. When you do, you're definitely going to have the software in it, and that software is going to look like, it's going to have something like this. This guy is over here. You're going to see something like this, and with that, you just double click on it, and right, with that, you double click on it, and everything gets started. Right, so that's what I'm working with. I'm working with a Jupyter Notebook, which is a browser-based development environment that makes it easy for you to take notes and do a bunch of stuff. Right. Now last week we started talking about something called vectorized string operations. Now, just to do a simple recap, right? Python has objects, And this object, part of this objects are this stuff you see. You can see these objects, they are strings, they're characters. Now, manipulating these characters has become such an important aspect of what we do in order to understand data. Right now, today we are going to be looking at we're going to be looking at data. There's a data I shared last week.
Hello. Mr. Peter, is like you're not audible, or am I the only one? Hello. Can anyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay, but can you hear Peter?
No.
Nope. No.
Okay. I think he's having a technical issue of some sort. I don't know. Let's wait and maybe for him to join back. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give him a few minutes. It's fine.
So who was here last week? Is there anyone in the class that was here last week? No. I guess.
I was in the class last week.
Okay. Kabir, Ola, Wale. Okay, if you don't mind, Mr. Kabir, can you like summarize or try to tell us what really happened last week for those that went there, you know?
Well, I can't really. I don't have my. I'm joining from a phone, so it's the what he essentially uh, did was he just started what he was just explaining before he went up. You understand? Just using those the string vector operations. That is how to maybe extract certain information from a set of data using string operations. You understand there are different types. Like for example, you have a name that has both surname and first name in one column. You can use string operation to string vector operations to extract the first name and the last name from a single row. You understand? Things like that. There are several I've actually used it before, but at the time I was using it, I didn't know what it's called. It's just now that I know. Yeah. There are several of them that you can use. Especially it's very useful when you are doing data cleaning. Understand? It helps you to be able to extract certain features from your data without having to do a lot of coding. You understand? Are you with me?
Yeah. It's like it's already exciting, and the fact
That's why
that
it helps. It's quite helpful. Like for
yeah,
example, like I explained, you have a column. Maybe while they were doing the data capture, the person capturing just put the first name and the son and the last name in one row. You understand? You can easily just use the string operations to, or vector string operations to get the information that you need with ease without having to do much coding. I think he's back.
And you know what's interesting from what you said, Kabir, is that you worked on such tools before, but you learned what's called or something from last week, and
It-
I think that's
not,
interesting.
it's not a tool. It's just a kind of like just like a syntax. Let me call it that. You can use to just the same way you use print or all those other normal commands in Python. You understand that is also what it does. It
Yeah, I
helps.
think he's back, Peter. Peter, you're back.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank
I
God.
was just letting you guys
We were even we were
jump in
trying
and
to
then
at least, make the class lively while we wait
yeah,
for you.
yeah,
And Kabir was so helpful with so much. We learned a lot from him. You're welcome back.
yeah. Thanks, man. For some weird reason, the my system just went up. So thanks, Gabriel, for holding the fort. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you guys can continue with the conversation while I just pull up my screen again and just uh, try to get things back. But yes, thanks a lot. So let me get some of these things.
Okay, Kabir, you were saying I'm really really interested in what you're saying, and I'm amazed already.
Like what I was just explaining, like if you can just use like the column, get the column name, then dot string dot split. It will split the two items. It will separate the first name from the. You can use any parameter that you notice that it's common among the data to split the data into as many parts as you want. You understand? So it's quite helpful, especially when you are doing data cleaning.
Kabir, as for me, as someone that that is not from this field of study, like I said, I studied accounting, which is basically social sciences and has nothing or little to do with tech. I find this really helpful, before, when you have to do with software, you have to go and learn all those codes. They're very complicated and all, but I think using these tools like Jupyter, Python and other, like, it's so
No,
easy, the
Python
language, it's not that
Python
complicated.
is Python is a programming language. You
Okay.
understand? The beauty of Python is that it has a English like syntax, so
Yeah,
it's easy for you
that's
to
exactly
follow.
what I'm saying.
Unlike maybe you're doing JavaScript or
Yeah,
Java
yeah,
or all those other languages. So that's why a lot of people fall in love with Python quickly because
yeah.
it's easy to learn. Because it's more like you are speaking English to the computer and
Mm,
you find yourself
mm,
really understanding it quickly and
mm.
you understand. Then the Jupyter notebook is just an IDE. Is any Python, you can run it on several platforms. You can use VS Code, you can use uh, Google Colab,
Mm.
you can use all of them. They are Jupyter notebooks, but you understand, like you can use VS Code also. So the IDE is just a platform where you run the Python program, just like Jupyter notebook or VS Code or Google Colab. So anyone The programming language is Python.
Okay.
The IDE is a platform where you run the Python
What does
program.
IDE mean? What's the meaning of
It's
IDE?
integrated development environment.
Okay, okay.
You get it. So there are different platforms where you can run. There's PyCharm. There are several of them where you can run your Python code. So the most important, you know the difference. Python is the
Okay, now
language.
Python is the language, right? Basically, is the
Yes,
language. Okay,
yes, that's the
and
programming language.
okay, that's the
Whereas
programming
Jupyter
language.
Notebook is the platform where you
It's the
run.
IDE,
Yes, you can call it IDE
development
or
environment.
yes, exactly.
Okay, what of Watson Studio?
I'm not sure I know that. I'm not
Okay.
sure I know what. There are several. It depends on the program. Maybe that's for another programming language, but I've never used it before. I don't know whether it applies to Python.
Okay, Watson Studio is a machine learning strat slash it's it's an infrastructure used to learn a lot of stuff, and they are fixed with a lot of compute resources to help you do stuff. It's
Okay.
something similar. I don't know if you've seen like GCP and stuff.
I've used GCP
Yeah,
and
so
this
it's like
Google
cloud
Cloud
platform.
Platform.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's like IBM's own. It's called
Okay, their own cloud service is
yeah.
that's what you're referring to. Okay,
Yeah,
I've not.
yeah, but normally, you use it for machine learning. You understand?
So
Machine learning, you can do machine learning on Jupyter Notebook as well. Just like
Yes.
it's just the
Yeah, yeah,
machine learning is not the machine learning can be in any there you can use R for the machine learning, which is a
yeah.
programming language. You can use
You know why I
Python.
asked you? You know why I asked you the Watson Studio, because you said Python is just the language, the programming language, and you
Yes,
have different IDEs, right? Or
exactly.
development environments that you can use to write whatever program that you need. That was why I made mention of it. So Peter, would you consider Watson Studio as an IDE? Can we
yeah,
call it an IDE?
yeah, you can see it here now. That's it. Um, you see, it's an ID on its own. It's all depends on what you want to use it for. There are so many. What I call them, they are platforms that are ready to do a bunch of stuff. And
Uh,
for
for example, this GCP that I mentioned, GCP itself is not a platform where you write code. But while on GCP, you can rent you can create a virtual environment on GCP where you can use, and from there throw up your maybe VS Code or whatever and all of that and work. So it's I don't
I
know.
think you can call them platforms, right? That they are,
The platform is a better
yeah.
word
So
rather
they're
than
like,
the IDE.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
they're
okay. Wow.
platforms. They're like you can now layer things on top of them, right? So here's the thing. Back in the day, if you know there are folks who've been here before, folks had to um build their own servers. They had to, you know, do stuff just to get, just have a platform to do a lot of stuff, like ensure they have um, enough RAM, enough memory to get things done. But basically, a lot of these platforms were created to, you know, help us do a lot of things on the go, right? So they come,
Wow.
yeah, they come ready with a bunch of things, right? Some of them have, they have a lot of things built on them. So that's why a lot of them are called platforms as a service, software as a service. They all just bundled up into stuff. Now you can go into those platforms and then you can choose to now on top of, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do massive amounts of work, and it provides you the opportunity to spin up. There are always called spin up clusters that will make you put your IDE on top of them and then get to do some work, right? So a lot of these companies have built them, right? They've built all these things so that they make it easy for you. That's why when you see some of them, and when you see some of them come up, just like this Anaconda Navigator you see here, right? It's a platform too. Inside of it is the Jupyter Notebook, and the Jupyter Notebook is the IDE. But at first, when it was created, it was so simple. But as you know, we're in the cloud era where, you know, looking for faster ways to do stuff. They have not now put a cloud infrastructure to it. Now it now becomes like sort of like the GCP platform in itself, where you can attach your notebooks to a cloud and get enough RAM to do a lot of things. And then when you're done, you can store it in the cloud. You don't have to carry it around in your local machine and all. So yeah. So that's the same thing CIBM Watson looks like. You can see it here. It says an enterprise-ready AI platform, including data store, model builders, AI model management, and monitoring. Right. So they're like that. They all have their what they do.
So, Peter, I'm getting excited. Let me say, I'm even overwhelmed with the amount of information I'm getting from both you and is this too much for me as a beginner?
So, my thoughts, no. Right?
Okay.
It is not, because it's information. Again, I would encourage you to also read up this stuff, because it's ideal for you to synthesize information as much as you can, right? Once you synthesize information, then it helps you do a lot of reflection. If you are doing a lot of reflection without information, then, you know, there isn't a lot for you to, you know, to look back on. And it also makes you, like it says, makes your mind wander, and you start to think of possibilities, right? So it's not too much. What becomes too much is when you assume you are left behind and you need to catch up.
Okay.
I tell a lot of people, don't learn like you're trying to catch up, right? No, because what are you trying to catch up to? If say Kabir comes out and tells you about something he's doing, you don't even know where Kabir is coming from. You don't know whether he has struggled through 10, 15 years of learning. And all of a sudden you want to catch up with him. And it's really so counterintuitive. Second, you have to also, I don't think, because I heard you as I came in, I heard you talk about you're from the social sciences, you never had anything to do with stuff. I mean, I am also from the social sciences. I'm a graduate of public administration, right?
Wow.
So it doesn't have much to do with anything. Again, it's how your mind works, right? To learn stuff. Don't expect it to be easy, right? Just do what you just learn, right? Learn stuff. Take your time to learn stuff. Right? Don't give yourself a long rope. Like, I always say, give yourself 10 years, 20 years. Give yourself the rest of your life to learn this thing, and it to be compounding. Like I was speaking about that compounding, 100, 300, just compounds as you go. And next thing you know, you just know stuff, right? Because you're just synthesizing information, you're sharing with other people. I always tell people that building a community like this helps me to keep in touch with a lot of foundational stuff. Look at the questions you're asking. They are foundational stuff, which means I have to go back and always answer these things. Look at if I'm in touch with a lot of stuff like this. So it's not too much. It shouldn't be. It's not. You're just getting information, and you know, you'll learn as you go. And if once you find yourself doing stuff, go back to what you learned, pick up more information, take it in, try to know what it means. You know, trust, like you hear the general. It's soon becoming like a cliche, but you know, fail at stuff. And when you fail at stuff, you will learn new things. right? And you take the data and just keep building on it. So no, it's not.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, again, apologies for the interruption, right? But part of what our session is for us to pick up stuff and interact with one another, right? I'm happy that Kabiro is there to jump in on it and share a few things, and hopefully whatever it is he shared with you kind of, keep something in your mind that you keep running with it. One thing I would say is it's it's easy to learn if you don't think too much about the failure part of it. It's easy to learn if you don't give yourself very short periods to learn stuff, right? Give yourself time and just keep chipping in on it. I was going to talk about stuff, but I mean I think I'll just talk about something really simple, um, and then we could basically close up on that. What I was going to talk about was something called vectorized string operations. Right? It looks like a lot of work, a lot of words, but it's not. Basically, it isn't. Right? One thing is certain. There's information everywhere, and as long as there's information everywhere, there are ways for you to manipulate that information and just bring out stuff from it. But what we're trying to, excuse me, what we're trying to do is to, this information that's been gathered, how do we manipulate them? And I was talking about string, because strings are they're data types, they're types of objects in Python, in Python. And generally manipulating these things can be wholesome for a lot of people that are getting started. So if it's anything, I shared data last time out. This was the data that I shared. This, right? And inside this, as it's filled with information. It's filled with information, and the information there are recipes inside. And so the best we can do today is to look at just to get a sense of what is inside this guy, even if that's just what we learned today, right? So that's one thing I'll say. And what this would help us do when we read through this, it's filled with recipes, and it's a data type. It's a data format which is called JSON, JavaScript Object Notification. Yeah, JavaScript Object Notation. It's a format for keeping information, right? Just like you could see Excel, just like the Excel type ones, right? Information can be kept in here. Now, what I wanted to talk about today was looking into what was inside it, and it's to do that we are going to perform something called vectorized string. We're going to do something called vectorized string operations. And again, it's not that deep. It's just like it will just take a little bit of time to get into it. So this is it. Now, Kabir mentioned something about Python being he mentioned something about Python being a very, very simple language to learn, and he has a very huge point, because Python just seems like you're speaking English to folks and they're picking it up, and that's such an advantage, right? So I'm just going to use a few lines of code to read through what is in here. And my hope is that for folks who are getting started, you see that there's a possibility to read information from stuff like this. Now, inside here is there are recipes that are filled in here, but a lot of it is in string, they are characters, they're like letters, right? It's from a data perspective, it is easy to do a lot of manipulation of numbers, right? Because you can perform like arithmetic operations on them, right? But when it comes to written words, right, that you basically get from the internet, how do you even manipulate stuff like that? So that's the first thing we're looking at. Now, for me to see what is inside our JSON file, I would have to read through it, right? I have to read through what is inside. And to get that done, would import a package. We would import a package, right? Now, we mentioned, you see that we have this Anaconda Navigator. Now, there's a place that's called an environment, and in this environment, it has a lot of already made packages that are inside. That's why if you come over to this Anaconda Navigator here, when I first checked it out and I said, and I put this up, and it says it has thousands of data science, machine learning, and AI packages, right? And it has its managed packages and environment from a desktop application. Like these are all packages that you can use to do a bunch of stuff, right? So it's just here and it's managing a lot of it for us, right? Now, and so that's what I'm trying to do.
Is it free? The Anaconda.
It is. It has a free version, and that's that version you're going to use. Yes.
Okay.
That's what I encourage you to download, right? So once if you skip this registration, if you don't want to do it, you will see it. So depending on the laptop you're using or the operating system, you can download any of them. And once you download it, just go and double click on it where it's stored and it comes up, right? Generally, if you're having a challenge with it, even on my YouTube channel, there is an introduction to Python. There's a link to how to get that done. So please test yourself on how to install that. You're going to have some challenges which are only normal, and you learn from that too. So yeah, and it's free. It has a free version. Of course, it has an enterprise version, but you typically don't need the enterprise version because you're not doing enterprise type stuff at the moment. So now, if I was to import this package, the package is called this. We write Python code, Python import statement says import pandas as PD. Now this package you see here exists here, that it's here. So if I was to search this place and write pandas, look at it over here. This is pandas. So it's already here. So that makes it easy for me to write this code. And when I write this code and run it, in here for me to deal with. And with this guy, with this PD guy, I can read into a lot of data formats, right? Really interesting, right? I can read through them. Again, the focus is this guy over here. We're trying to read the information that exists in this guy here. Now, so with that, I would now do something that typically every first person learning Python will do, is to create something called a variable. And I'll call this, because this data is filled with recipes, right? Food recipes, right? So I'll just call this recipes. Then inside of it, I'm going to use function from this guy, right? This function is called PD read. Okay, it's called PD read underscore JSON, right? It makes it easy for you to read files that have these extensions. See this JSON extension. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to store this recipe. I'm going to call on it this very guy that is inside my directory here. Once I write this recipe, and I put it here, I can complete it here. Right. Now, additionally, we can put an additional parameter called lines and say lines as true, which will make it easy for us to read this. So I'll just run this. And once I run it, you see over here, it's an operation is running and it's finished running here just for me to do this. So that means I can basically check out what is inside this recipe. Right. Now, I can also tell what is inside a recipe by calling on recipes and using something called an attribute to say, what's the shape of what I have? And so if I run this, it will tell me I have over 173,000 rows and columns, 17 columns. So I have 173, over 173,000 rows, 17 columns. But because this data is shaped in ways that is not like the regular data we see, we can read it in a different kind of way. And this is typically going to be like a last stop I do. I can just be recipes dot ilog. And I can say, let me see the first element inside. And you can see what I have here. You can see the elements that exist inside. So that means inside here, a lot of these things are here. So you can see this is typically manipulating string objects. That's why they are called vectorized, basically saying fast string operations. Typically what this is saying, fast string operators or fast character operations. Right. So you can see that already. And this guys has URLs. I don't know if these things are this. So this, I don't know if these domains are not valid, right? Let me see if this domain is valid. Oh, it used to be, but this page does not exist, right? But so it just tells you there's information inside there. There's cook time, right? There's recipe, that's from the source of the recipe, the date it was published, right? The prep time, the description. Late after this, you can see that there's a description here, right, telling you for the different things that are inside of it. So yeah, so this stuff, what's in here, which means if I can look at this, and that means with this I can basically say, I can even look at, let's say, maybe if I say first 4, and I can bring out different aspects of what we have in here, different stuff. Right. So these are ways you can typically check out data. A lot of this data is not clean because you can see that there are lots of, it has a lot of things around them. For instance, if you look at this data, you can see that it has things here, right, which typically makes it look sort of like it's all over the place. But in reality, all this data you see can be manipulated and used for a bunch of things, right? So that's generally what I would have loved to talk about today, but yeah. So but we still have, yeah, where this Data Science Sunday is not ending, not anytime soon. So that means as we proceed, we'll be checking out stuff like that shows you possibilities for how to manipulate information. Again, there are lots of things you can learn. It's not beyond you. It's something just, focus, space repetition, learning like you're a child, and also trying to teach other people what you've learned. It exposes a lot, right? And yeah, so that's basically what I'll just be sharing for today. Again, apologies for the interruption. And at this point, if you have questions, let's feel free to share. If you have suggestions, feel free to share, and let me know what you think. All right. So in the absence of any question, we will be wrapping up today's session on the 17th Sunday of Data Science Sunday. Please, if you've joined the WhatsApp group, please feel free to interact with folks. If there's anything you want to do, if you have inquiries. Okay, good question. So Grace says, I'm wondering why is it not head like the usual way? Yes, that's because it's not a CSV file. It's not a CSV file, it's a JSON file. It's not a CSV file, it's a JSON file, and JSON files are read differently, right? So what we can do basically to get to this level, we can get to say head, but since we have you can see that we have over 173,000 elements, I can decide to say, use this lock and say, okay, let me just take maybe the first 2,000 files, which is what we have here. You can see that we have 2,000. And then I can store it. I can store it and call this recipe underscore data. And then when I store it in here, right, it's now easy for me to say recipe underscore data dot head to show me the first file. Yeah, so if we look at JSON, it has when you convert a JSON string to a pandas object, there are different parameters for checking them out. And over here, you can see, let me take you over to lines. Yes. Now, when you read the file as a JSON object, you want to ask if you want to read it per line. And so I said true because I wanted to read it per line. So it will bring out every line of the JSON object that we have in there. So that's what the lines true. Thank you for the question. All right. All right, do we have additional questions? I mean, again, if you are not in the group, please feel free to jump in and ask questions and all. So yeah. Okay, one final part. I don't know if you're in Kaduna. Sada, are you in Kaduna?
Yes, I'm from Kaduna, but I'm not in Kaduna right now.
I mean, if you happen to be in Kaduna anytime, you can always come around to Polar Innovation Hub. That's where the physical, you would find this our physical ecosystem. It's in Banawa, Kaduna. So please feel free to come around and you'll see where everything is happening. We have an ecosystem that supports learning as a community. Yeah, we also have a data science community there. From every year, we have at least 2 data science cohorts. Right.
So I'll definitely stop over whenever I'm in Kaduna. I'll come and
yeah.
And
yeah. Additionally, I also run a virtual cohort, which is typically for people who are not around or you're looking for a way to learn, have an accelerated learning cohort. Yep. So I don't do that. It's called the Data Mentorship. Let me see if I can pull out an information around that. I have a physical cohort. I also have so that is what it looks like. So it's an accelerated learning cohort. That's what it is. So again, if it's something you feel like you're interested, feel free to pause me, let me know. If you want to come and join, we also have just to share, not just this, we also have our physical cohort. You can, we already have one going on. So the next cohort should be in June or July. If you know anyone who is in Kaduna at any time and they want to jump in on our data science cohort, again, it happens twice every year. And so you can see this is the one that has started in January. and we'll soon be wrapping up. Right. So yeah. So again,
So it's 6 months duration, right?
no, 4 months.
Okay, it's 4 months duration. Okay.
Yeah, it's 4 months duration. So this is the first cohort. We'll be wrapping up soon. And again, it's just where you come and you realize, like, okay, there are lots of stuff I need to learn, and you learn as a community, and we take it one step at a time. And then when you're done, it's ideal to be part of the community and all. Additionally, at Collab, we also have something called the Collab Fellowship. The pilot just started. What that fellowship is: build, build, build. We are building our Collab because the part of Collab is to innovate. So we want folks to build and have work experience, job experience, build, and you could also become own startups and build products that change our lives. So our talent pipeline has a connection to a fellowship, and that fellowship is build, build, build. And we're building because we also have a part of our community, a part of Collab Innovation Hub is directed at funding and partnerships too. So we typically are super, super interested in building stuff, getting people to be experienced, have work experience. Because also part of what Collab does is to also have talent pipelines that different folks can tap into, just to get for people to get work or work from Collab and everything. So we are super, super huge on building that tech ecosystem, and that's typically what we're doing at the moment. So we have a data science cohort, and that one is physical. If you're not around, we also have you can always jump on the data science mentorship cohort. Yeah. Okay. In the absence of any questions, we could wrap this up.
I have a question.
Please,
it's not a question, it's an observation. I think that a dot head will work directly on the data, shouldn't it? I think so. It's
that's great.
by using PD, it automatically converts it to a data frame, and that should any data frame method should work on it. I don't know, it might be
No,
wrong.
I think you're right. The reason why, okay, what the best way to do is to check it out here, because you're right. It's converted to a data frame object. And it's true. I never even thought of it that way. Yeah.
Because once you use the PD, automatically the output is a data frame already. So you should
I think
method.
Okay, go ahead.
Any method that works on a data frame should work on it.
Yeah. So again, thanks for that. I think what caught me was in where I was reading it from and where I was learning it from, right? The steps that were used were typically to figure out how to what I was trying to focus on was to do vectorized string operations, right? So typically the idea of reading it as a data frame was something I tried not to put into perspective, but to think of reading it individually as strings, for instance. So that's why I didn't make that focus on it, right? And also, yeah, because I didn't want to go veer into that aspect. I wanted to veer into something like, say, I can do stuff like recipes underscore data dot name, something of this nature, right? Which now makes it easy for me to typically start to manipulate the information in terms of, say, maybe I can bring out certain things from it. And also that's why I didn't drive it towards that area, right? So maybe that's just why I was basically trying to drive it into this area. So yes, apologies if in that sense I was like, okay, until you get into this angle, and thank you for the observation.
Yep. You're welcome.
Yep. So basically what I'm trying to do is how we can use string um, how we can use strings, basically, how we can manipulate strings. Like there is an aspect of this that has ingredients. For instance, I can call on ingredients, which is this, and I can go on to use .string .learn, and then go on to, we can basically use it to see the total number of string elements we have. And then we can also go on to even do summary statistics on it. And also stuff like this, which will now tell us, like, on average, this has 2,000 elements. The mean of the number of characters we have is 307. So yeah, so that was the area I wanted to veer into. But again, thank you for that, so that it doesn't give folks the sense that you cannot read it as a data frame. So yeah, thanks. All right, questions, observations? All right, then. Again, I don't know, I shared this last time out. Drop this again, this in the group. Yes, I'm going to drop this again. In fact, I'm not going to drop it. I'm just going to reshare what I shared like last 2 weeks. I think it's a bigger file to read. That, yes. So I'll just basically forward this back to the same group again. Let me share. I'll forward this again to the same group, so folks can work with it again. Yes, right. It takes a little bit of time to get in, so you can look at it and try to see if you can work with it, and all. There's a lot to manipulate with it, but yeah. All right. Again, let us know if there are any challenges you're having. If it's your first time, if you have questions and observations, please feel free to share. And we can do this. We'll be doing this in the 18th episode of the Data Science Sunday, which is going to be next week. That will be on the. Should be on the 4th of May. Yes, on the 4th of May. And that'll be our 18th Sunday of the year. And hopefully we'll do it till we get to the 54th or the 53rd Sunday of this year. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining in. Sarah, please feel free to drop questions and ask inquiries on the group. And if there's anything you feel like, just drop it on the group. There are folks who will share their own thoughts, share their own resources, and hopefully you get started. If there are courses you're taking, feel free to talk to folks about it, and just keep an eye on the group, and feel free to share. Right. All right, then, guys, thank you so much for the contribution. And we will be doing this again next week, Sunday. And again, remember, try to organize what you're doing. And if you can organize for a week, then you can do it for 2 weeks. And then that means you can do it for the next 10 years, right? Really ideal stuff. And then before you know it, you start doing really interesting stuff and things that are really important to what you're doing. And sooner or later, on things that are typically are not what I call it valid. I mean, things that help instead of just doom scrolling on social media or stuff. Things that will not distract you but improve your mind will just start creeping into your plans and all. Right. All right, guys. All the best and take care.
Bye-bye. Good night,
Bye.
Peter.